I want to thank first off because I keep forgetting to mention this.
My name's Rachel Zegler. If you're new here, which you're probably not, if you're coming back, welcome back. I shouldn't be cursing, but I'm gonna do it anyways because I have no self-control. Sorry, Mr. Mouse. Jeffrey Bezos. Jeffrey Bezos. You did it!
It took less than 5 minutes. The second Rachel Zegler's new song hit the internet, the outrage lit up like gasoline on dry brush. Within moments, fans, former and current, were dissecting every lyric, reposting suspicious lines, and asking the question no one was ready to answer out loud: was this her clapback? Because if it was, it wasn't subtle.
I remember in art chemistry read thinking he had brought such a lovable cynicism to this character that not a lot of people, I think, thought to bring.
If this song was meant to show growth or humility, it did the opposite. Instead, it sounded defiant, proud, almost smug. And for critics who've been watching Zegler spiral from one PR disaster to another, this track felt like a middle finger dressed up in musical notes. The backlash wasn't just loud, it was instantaneous. Twitter threads blew up with side-by-side comparisons of the lyrics and her most infamous interviews. TikTokers didn't wait for confirmation. They dove headfirst into speculation.
Like, in the eyes of the law, you have to be nice to me, and I'm an adult.
She's talking about the 7 men thing again. One video claimed, referencing her now iconic shade against the classic Snow White storyline. Another user wrote, "She's not singing, she's venting." The tone of the song, allegedly filled with veiled jabs at haters, liars, and fairy tales, felt like a manifesto, one aimed not just at her critics, but at the entire internet that's been holding her accountable. The reaction wasn't just online hysteria. The outrage came because the song didn't exist in a vacuum. It came after the Evita meltdown, after the low ticket sales in London, after Gal Gadot lawyering up.
Everyone's just ignoring my phone calls. Whatever, it's chill. I don't even care. I'm gonna be on a talk show tonight and I'm gonna talk shit about them on the talk show. Talking shit on the talk show.
Fans weren't guessing in the dark. They had context, a timeline, a pattern. So when this song suddenly drops with lines that seem to punch back at the noise, people didn't just raise eyebrows. They raised the alarm. Is she really doing this now? One post read. She's learned nothing. And here's the kicker. Rachel hasn't clarified a thing. No interviews, no posts, no attempt to soften the message, which has only fueled the theory that this was intentional, calculated, her version of a mic drop wrapped in piano chords. But if that was the plan, it's already backfiring.
If you have any opinions, I don't want to hear them. This is the one time in my life where if you have something to say, I don't want to hear it.
Because far from silencing her critics, she may have just given them new ammunition. If the song itself caused a stir, the lyrics are what detonated the internet. People weren't just listening, they were decoding. Within hours, screenshots of key lines were being passed around like receipts in a group chat, each one allegedly packed with pointed messages. One line in particular lit up fan forums. "I won't dance for dwarves or kneel for kings." Critics immediately seized on it. Was this another jab at the Snow White legacy she famously mocked? Was it a shot at Disney executives? Or maybe, as one Reddit post speculated, she's calling out the fairy tale she was hired to sell. Another lyric, "They painted me wicked, but I never wore red."
I'm a very talented, capable individual. I'm here for a reason, I can do it.
Had people wondering if she was referencing the internet's branding of her as the villain in her own Hollywood arc. The color red, symbolic of both Snow White's poisoned apple and industry danger signals, didn't feel accidental. Some interpreted it as her saying she's not the problem, everyone else is. And if that's true, then this entire song may not be a reflection. It's a rebuttal. But what really set people off was the tone. The song didn't sound hurt or apologetic. It sounded bold, triumphant. One user wrote, "She's not trying to mend bridges, she's burning them." Several fans noted how the lyrics used phrases like "noise in the tower," "mouths with no faces," and "kingdoms made of ash," each feeling like a poetic gut punch to online critics, tabloid writers, and maybe even former supporters. The metaphors weren't cryptic, they were practically lit neon, and then came the speculation about who exactly she was singing about. Was the king with mirrors a reference to the Disney machine? Was the chorus of crows meant to mock social media backlash? TikTok sleuths compiled clips from past Zegler interviews and matched them with lyrics.
It's really stressed out, guys. It's kind of like stupid to complain about. I swear I'm not complaining.
Almost like she was quoting herself, then flipping the narrative. If so, it's a level of self-awareness that feels oddly performative. Instead of addressing the damage, is she doubling down on her own version of events? Some fans admitted the writing was clever, but said it reeked of delusion. "It's giving main character energy," one user posted. "She thinks she's misunderstood. We think she's refusing to take the L. If the goal was to spark conversation, mission accomplished. But if it was meant to win anyone back, that bridge may already be in ashes." Let's talk about tone, because sometimes it's not what you say, it's how you say it. And in Rachel Zegler's case, the delivery of her new song is where things get uncomfortably sharp. From the very first note, she doesn't sound cautious or humbled by the controversy swirling around her name. She sounds triumphant, like she's already won the argument and is now performing the victory lap. And that's exactly what has fans calling it tone deaf. The vocals aren't fragile or searching. They're theatrical, controlled, commanding. Critics have called her performance stagey, with one voice coach breaking it down as emotionally polished to the point of being performative. And here's where things get messy, because if she's trying to present this as her emotional truth, why does it come off like a Broadway audition tape?
I don't want people to see me in a weakened state. I don't want people to see me as ungrateful or anything like that. I was nervous that that's what this makes me look like.
That was the read many fans walked away with, that the entire thing was just another performance, not a reckoning. People expected introspection, or at the very least, self-awareness. Instead, the delivery felt, according to more than one post, smug, condescending, and dripping with ego. One viral TikTok said it best: "She's not sorry. She's annoyed she got called out." That perception is only made worse by the fact that Rachel has never publicly acknowledged the many controversies she's been entangled in, from her Snow White comments and fan alienation to the growing tension backstage during Evita. So when she emerges from silence not with an explanation, but with a song that sounds like a victory speech, people don't hear growth, they hear delusion. And yet, insiders are whispering that this was exactly the message she wanted to send. According to one rumor making the rounds on blind item sites, Rachel believes the criticism is rooted in misogyny, that people just don't like seeing a young woman speak boldly. It's a talking point that could have had merit if it weren't coming from someone who's consistently framed herself as the victim while brushing off any meaningful accountability. That framing, paired with the slick delivery of this song, makes it hard to believe this is about empowerment. It feels more like deflection. What's worse, some fans are now speculating she knows the song will make people mad. And that's the point. Controversy brings clicks. Outrage brings views. And Rachel may be leaning into the idea that the more people hate watch, the more she wins. But if that's her strategy, she's playing with fire. Because from the outside looking in, it's not coming across as courageous. It's coming across as calculated. And just when things couldn't get any more chaotic, in steps Zachary Levi, again, in what's becoming a pattern that fans are calling weirdly invested. The Shazam actor came to Rachel Zegler's defense during an appearance that had absolutely nothing to do with her music.
I don't know if I've ever explained before. I was cast in West Side Story on January 9th, 2019. 1919, so 19's my lucky number. That probably interests no one, but it's interesting to me, so bye.
In a Fox News segment ostensibly focused on politics and celebrity voting habits, Levi veered off course to deliver what some are calling a full-throated defense of Zegler and her so-called haters. He didn't name the song outright, but his timing was impossible to ignore. According to Levi, the backlash against Zegler is rooted in a Trumpian mentality, accusing critics of hating on a young woman for having opinions. He called the attacks on her gross and implied that most people upset with her simply can't handle a confident woman with a voice. But here's the issue. This wasn't about confidence. It was about how that voice has alienated fans, insulted a beloved Disney legacy, and spiraled into a PR disaster that even Disney seems unwilling to clean up. Levi's remarks immediately triggered another wave of backlash, this time aimed at both of them. Many pointed out the irony. Levi himself has faced criticism for his own controversial statements and vaccine-related comments in the past. So for him to now jump in as Rachel's white knight, it felt less like solidarity and more like a distraction. One comment read, "This is the blind defending the tone deaf." Another fan tweeted, "Levi and Zegler are the new Hollywood duo, unbothered and unapologetic while the rest of us cringe." There's also the looming question, why is Levi so eager to defend her again and again? Is this just friendship or something more strategic? Some industry watchers speculate that he's trying to get back in the good graces of Disney after the collapse of Shazam 2, and aligning himself with Zegler, a fellow industry pariah, might be a mutual PR experiment. Others wonder if it's as simple as shared resentment. Two actors who feel misunderstood by the media and empowered by each other's rebellion. But no matter the reason, the timing couldn't be worse. Instead of cooling the flames, Levi poured gasoline on an already out-of-control situation. His defense of Zegler only reignited fan anger, made the song go even more viral, and turned the spotlight back onto her defiant tone. And if she was trying to quietly assert her side through music, Levi just kicked the door wide open and let the noise back in. Here's where the conversation takes a darker turn, because fans and insiders alike are now questioning why this song was released now.
All of Hollywood's like, yep, let's make her a thing, let's make her a thing. But she's never made a movie that's been successful.
Was this supposed to be a healing moment? A fresh start after the avalanche of bad press? Or was it something more cynical? An intentional provocation designed to shift the narrative, rile up her critics, and distract from the mounting damage to her reputation? The word floating around in celebrity gossip circles is simple, but sharp: strategy. The timing couldn't have been more loaded. This song comes mere weeks after Rachel's disastrous Evita rehearsals allegedly sent castmates scrambling, and just as Disney's PR machine has gone radio silent about Snow White. Add in the uncomfortable reports about Gal Gadot allegedly lawyered up, and suddenly, the drop of a bold, almost antagonistic song feels less like an emotional release and more like a calculated media play. One user summed it up perfectly: "You don't drop a track like that unless you're trying to drown out headlines." There's also speculation that this wasn't a spontaneous passion project. Some believe the track was recorded months ago, and that her team, either defiant or desperate, chose this exact window to push it out. Why? To reframe the narrative. If people are going to talk about Rachel Zegler, let it be about her art, not her controversies. But here's the problem. Fans don't see this as art. They see it as spin, and the tone of the song, defiant and theatrical, only fuels the suspicion that this was meant to provoke, not heal. Even more conspiratorial fans are suggesting this might be her version of artistic revenge, that she's using the one tool she still controls, her voice, to fire back at the world that's been turning against her. If true, it puts the entire song in a new, more dangerous light, because revenge doesn't de-escalate, it escalates. And Zegler may have just guaranteed that every new controversy will now be filtered through this lens of Rachel versus the internet. What's most jarring is how little damage control seems to be in place. No clarifying posts, no behind-the-scenes videos softening the intent, just silence, which to some is further proof that this wasn't a misstep. It was a statement, a line drawn. And while her most loyal fans might applaud her boldness, the majority reaction suggests she's misread the room. Again, because if this was an attempt to reset her image, it's done the opposite. She hasn't reset the conversation, she's reignited it. Hollywood is always watching. And when someone like Rachel Zegler makes a move this bold, especially after months of controversy, you'd expect at least some kind of industry reaction. A congratulatory post, a colleague reposting the song, a quick "proud of you sis" from a fellow star. But this time, nothing. Crickets. And that silence is louder than applause, because in an industry that thrives on performance and public alliances, people are starting to notice who isn't showing up for Rachel anymore.
Her career is not going from strength to strength, is it? So this is her new thing, Evita.
Not a single high-profile co-star shared the track. No directors, no producers, not even past collaborators dropped a supportive comment. It's a noticeable shift from just a year ago, when Zegler was the media darling of West Side Story, getting fawned over by Steven Spielberg and cast in back-to-back blockbusters. Now, her song drops into the middle of a firestorm, and the industry, aside from Zachary Levi, seems to be keeping its distance. And that silence has fans whispering, was this song a step too far? There's even a theory floating through agency circles that the song wasn't approved by anyone at the studio level, that it may have been released independently, without coordination from her current film teams or musical partners. If true, it could signal a rupture behind the scenes, a rogue decision made outside the normal PR channels. Some are calling it bold, others are calling it reckless. Because when you're already skating on thin ice with a studio like Disney, the last thing they want is an unsanctioned, inflammatory song to drop just months before a major film release. And let's be real, this isn't just about Snow White. The industry knows how fragile a brand can become. If one actor is too polarizing, they can throw off an entire project's box office chances. And that's where the deeper speculation comes in. Are producers and studios starting to quietly back away from Zegler? Is she being left out of press tours on purpose? One fan even joked, at this point, the dwarf actors are doing more promo than she is. Funny, but also telling. The other question no one wants to ask out loud, what if this is the start of Rachel being quietly blacklisted? Not officially, not overtly, but phased out, passed over, avoided. Hollywood doesn't always cancel with press releases. Sometimes they just stop calling. And if Zegler's recent song was meant to flex power, she may have just reminded the industry how risky she's become. Because even in a town that thrives on drama, this kind of drama doesn't sell tickets. It scares investors. It didn't take long for the memes to start. By the end of the day, Rachel Zegler's song had become the internet's new favorite, Punchline. TikToks were everywhere. Users reenacting the lyrics in exaggerated Broadway voices, parodying the tone, and even editing clips of her past interviews to sync up with the song's most melodramatic lines. One particularly viral video layered her chorus over footage of Snow White fleeing through the woods, captioned, "Me escaping accountability in song form." Thousands of likes, comments flooded in. People weren't just criticizing anymore, they were laughing. And that's the shift that stings most. The backlash has moved from outrage to mockery. Zegler isn't being seen as bold or edgy. She's being treated like a walking spectacle. Reddit threads broke down every stanza like it was a failed poetry slam. Twitter was even harsher. One trending post read, "Imagine being handed Snow White, Evita, and a career, and deciding to drop a diss track on your own audience." The quote tweets were brutal. And for someone who once stood on the brink of being Hollywood's next darling, this fall from grace is playing out in real time.
I don't need your business. Thanks.
People will wait in line to see.
And in meme format. But perhaps the most damning sign of all, even her former fans are joining in. These aren't internet trolls who always hated her. These are the people who championed her West Side Story debut, who were excited when she was cast as Snow White, who defended her against early criticism. Now those same voices are the ones saying, "I wanted to root for her, but she just keeps making it harder." That emotional shift, from support to disappointment to mockery, is one of the hardest reputational landslides to come back from. Screenshots of her past tweets are resurfacing. Clips from her infamous interviews, where she called the original Snow White story weird and creepy, are being reposted with snarky overlays. People are calling her the anti-Disney princess, and not in a cool, empowering way. One fan posted a side-by-side image of Halle Bailey smiling on the Little Mermaid red carpet, and Rachel Zegler looking sullen in press footage, captioned, "One understands the assignment. One writes songs about how she's misunderstood. And here's the danger. The internet doesn't forget. It collects. It archives. And this moment, this song, this backlash, is becoming part of her permanent record. Once the memes take over, it's no longer a PR problem. It's a public perception shift. Zegler may have intended to sing her truth, but the audience she aimed it at is now laughing, not listening. And that is far more damaging than any review or headline. If Disney was hoping the drama would die down, this song just ripped the Band-Aid off. Because the moment Rachel Zegler's lyrics hit the internet, so did the panic. At least that's what fans and insiders are starting to whisper. Snow White, already plagued by delays, backlash, and disastrous optics, just got another layer of risk. And unlike before, this wasn't an offhand interview or accidental slip-up. This was a deliberate, highly public act. A song that felt like a provocation. And Disney, completely silent. That silence is deafening. Normally, when a lead actor drops a major artistic piece, especially one tied thematically to the biggest role of their career, the studio would promote it, quote tweet it, amplify the moment. But in this case, nothing. Not a single statement. Not a share. Not even a like. Which has sparked new speculation. Is Disney distancing itself for good? And more importantly, can they still move forward with this version of Snow White without risking a financial and cultural implosion? The rumors are loud. Allegedly, Disney execs were blindsided by the song's release and furious at the tone. The lyrics mocking fairy tales, dismissing classic story tropes, and painting Zegler as a misunderstood martyr. It's the exact opposite of what they need right now. They've already been battling fan resistance after her past interviews diminished the original film. Now they've got a lead actress who appears to be mocking that backlash in song form. One industry insider allegedly called it PR sabotage. And while Disney hasn't made any public move, some fans are reading between the lines. Zegler has been almost entirely absent from recent promotional material. Her co-stars are either quiet or cautiously vague.
Rachel Zegler is a no-name actress. She's barely been in anything, actually. If you look at her IMDb, West Side Story was the first one that... it was the first movie she was in, basically.
And every new viral moment, every tweet, parody, or video mocking her performance puts more pressure on the studio to either fix it or walk away. One theory that refuses to die, that they're quietly preparing to re-edit, delay again, or even replace her in press rollouts with CGI and narrator-heavy marketing. It sounds extreme, until you remember how much is riding on this film. This isn't just about a fairy tale. Snow White was supposed to be Disney's big legacy reset, a reimagining for modern audiences. But Zegler's repeated controversies have turned that dream into a gamble. And with every new headline, every viral backlash, that gamble looks riskier. Because the truth is, fans don't trust her to represent the brand. And this latest move, the dramatic Defiant song, didn't rebuild that trust. It demolished what little was left. When public backlash explodes, it's often the inner circle who step in first. Friends posting messages of support, collaborators reminding everyone of the artist's talent. A subtle Instagram story here, a heart emoji there. But when Rachel Zegler dropped her new song and the criticism came flooding in, her circle practically vanished. The silence from her usual defenders is not only suspicious, it's becoming part of the story. Take Ariana DeBose, for instance. Once proudly attached to Rachel's rise, their online interactions used to be frequent and bubbly. But lately, nothing. No repost, no shout-out, no subtle sign of approval. Then there's Billy Porter, who's previously spoken about empowering young artists and even hinted at industry support for Zegler during West Side Story. This time, not a word. And Gal Gadot? She's been radio silent since those rumors about legal tension between her team and Rachel's started circulating weeks ago. If there was ever a time for a co-star to squash rumors or show solidarity, it was now. But the silence is undeniable. Even more revealing are the ones who have spoken, but carefully. A makeup artist who worked with Zegler posted a vague story about choosing grace over chaos. A stylist reposted a meme about staying silent when it's not your battle. Harmless on their own, until you realize they all worked with Rachel during key press moments. Some fans are now combing through old tagged posts and noticing how many people have either unfollowed her or quietly deleted past content. It's not an overt cancellation, it's an erasure. And that's what has everyone speculating. Is Rachel Zegler's inner circle quietly stepping back? Industry watchers are calling it a soft freeze-out. Not a dramatic public feud, but a gradual distancing that's harder to track, yet impossible to ignore. Because while no one's calling her out directly, they're also not standing with her. And in Hollywood, that kind of passive absence can be more damning than open criticism. Some insiders claim her team is urging her to lay low.
But it's hard. And it's lonely. It's very lonely. I just know that if that loneliness can exist, so can other things, and I will be okay.
But that message clearly didn't land if she chose to drop a Defiant song in the middle of a reputational crisis. Others think the team is splintered, some pushing damage control, others doubling down on the rebellious persona. And with Zegler staying silent on social media, fans are left wondering whether she's ignoring the backlash or quietly stunned by the lack of support from those closest to her. Because when the world turns against you, you expect your people to show up. But in Rachel's case, they didn't, or wouldn't. And the message that sends, especially during one of the biggest PR disasters of her career, is devastating. Not just for her brand, but for the perception that maybe, just maybe, even her allies are growing tired of the drama. If this song was meant to be a comeback, it might have just confirmed everything her critics were already saying. That Rachel Zegler isn't misunderstood, she's unwilling to listen. That she's not evolving, she's entrenching herself deeper. And what started as a bold artistic move now feels like a self-inflicted wound dressed up in metaphor. Because rather than quiet the noise, she may have turned up the volume on her own downfall. There's a version of this story where Zegler could have turned things around, a heartfelt song, a raw performance, a moment of vulnerability. But instead, what fans got was what many are calling an anthem of defiance with a side of smugness. There's no apology in these lyrics, no self-awareness in the tone, just a declaration that she's unbothered by the fire, even as it consumes the very career she was once poised to dominate. And that's what's so baffling. With so much on the line, why this approach? Some say it's a generational disconnect, that Zegler is trying to be Gen Z's misunderstood anti-hero, fighting back against online trolls and media narratives. Others say it's pure delusion, a last-ditch attempt to reframe the public conversation before her upcoming projects suffer irreparable damage. But whatever the intent, the result is the same. She's made herself even harder to defend. Even longtime supporters are stepping back, not because they hate her, but because they're exhausted. Exhausted by the attitude, the drama, the refusal to take a breath and just listen. And now the question hanging over all of this isn't just about one song, it's about what happens next. Will she double down again? Will she go silent? Will Disney continue to distance themselves? Or will they gamble on controversy selling tickets? Is this the beginning of a reinvention or a slow, very public unraveling? One thing is clear. Rachel Zegler has drawn her line in the sand. Whether she's standing her ground or digging her own grave depends entirely on what comes next. Because In an era where public perception is the product, her latest performance wasn't just heard, it was felt. And that feeling? For a lot of fans, it wasn't inspiration. It was disappointment. So now we turn it over to you. Do you think Rachel Zegler's song was empowering or just out of touch? And can she still turn things around? Or is this the final act of a star in freefall? Like, subscribe, and stay tuned, because the next video on your screen is waiting. And trust me, you won't believe what's coming next.